that has taken part, that taken has taken place during the latter part of the 19th century. So the scientific management theory, it has the link with the new industrial revolution. It means that the outcome of the new industrial revolution, or you can say that the impact of new industrial revolution, the problem which has arisen, or the complex in the organization that have emerged out of industrial development, scientific approach is an attempt to solve that problem. And basically this scientific management theory was developed by the Frederick Wilson Taylor, which is known as the pioneer of the scientific management approach, which latter stage paved the way for the modern management approaches and the techniques. So before going to discuss about the theory, let us discuss something about the author. Why we used to discuss about the thinker who has propagated or who has evolved the theory? Because from that he is teaching, he is working, and what time he has faced the problem. From that part we will come to know about the various thought process and other things. That's why F. W. Taylor was born in German in 1856. So he has received in education in France and Germany also. He has also received the mechanical engineering degree, and at the age of 18, he joined the enterprises of hydraulic work Philadelphia and served as an apprentice for 4 years. Later, he has become the chief engineer of that company, and he became also a general manager of manufacturing investment in that company. In 1893, he opened an office in New York as a consultative engineer. So, as an engineer, he is instrumental in development of new technology. He invested several tools to increase the production also. Some of the important tools which has developed, that is the cutting tools, heat treating tools, steel hammer, and other things also. He was always interested in improving upon the technique of management. So he has emphasized the scientific way of developing tools as well as scientific way of performing the job. So he was as a passion for efficiency and scientific way of work in the organization. If you see his writings, a piece of red system, that is in 1885, then soft management, art of cutting metals, the principle of scientific management 1911, which we will study today. So from this point, as an engineer, as he has a long experience in the engineering and other parts, so he has a vast knowledge about the technology and new way of working and other things. So as the starting I told that due to industrial revolution we'll see. So first we should know why this theory has come. Basically the new second industrial revolution has given scope with the complexity of the organization and system. He has developed this theory. And then another concept there was the developed of the soldiering phenomena, which we'll discuss. There was also at that time in the industrial revolution, there was bitter labor management conflict. That's why various industries were closed or they were not able to work properly. That time it was also came to our notice that there was no proper standardized technique and procedure, lack of cooperation, fear psychosis. This was there at that time. So F.W. Taylor is known as the father of scientific management approach. That's why a scientific management approach is also known as the Taylorism. So the soldiering, the word which I told you, that means that this was first noticed by the Taylor, which he has observed that a phenomena of workers purposefully operating well below their capacity. When the workers used to perform below their capacity, that is called the soldiering. And out because of the performance below their capacity, it leads to, it affects the total organization system. So why this used to be happen? This used to happen because workers believe that there are three reasons he told. Out of that, the first one, workers believe that if they became more productive, fewer of them would needed and jobs would be eliminated. It says that workers' thought process is that if they will produce more, then after some time, the employee does not need these workers because their production limit has reached. That's why the job insecurity, because they thought that if they will perform more production will be there, then what will happen? Their jobs will be eliminated after a certain time. Second point, why soldiering? They think that it came to the notice of Taylor that non-incentive wage system, that there is not much incentive in the work system, which has encouraged the low productivity. So employees take greater care never to work a high pace or fear that this faster pace should become the new standard. And employees fear that their per unit pay will decrease if the quantity will increase. So employees, the first one, they thought that if they will work more, production will be more. So some job will be eliminated. That is the first reason. The second, they thought that if they will work more or their workforce will be faster, it will become the standard of the work. That if some work used to be done within 10 days and if they will complete it in the 5 days, then what will happen? It will be a standard of work. So what will then? Then the per unit, the pay will decrease because the quantity will increase. Then the last point which the Taylor has highlighted, because of which the soldiering is there, that is, the workers waste much of their time and effort by relying on the rule of thumb method rather than on those of determined scientifically. So to counter this soldiering and to improve the efficiency in the system, Taylor began to conduct the experiment to determine the best level of performance for certain jobs and what was necessary to achieve this performance. And this came to the notice because his long experience, as I told you, as a In the 18 years, he started the work as a apprentice, then as a laborer, then as a chief engineer, then as a general manager. So all this experience has given him an input that why there is soldiering in the system. So in that regard, Taylor find out that the management, what is the lacuna, why there is conflict in the prevailing system between the labor and the management. So he found out that management had no clear understanding of worker management responsibility. According to him, management, there is no clear understanding what is the job of the worker and what is the job of management, which leads to the conflict. And due to the lack of effective standard of work, lack of job clarity, restricted output because of soldiering in the work, failure of management to offer proper incentive to the workers to overcome the soldiering, and more, he found out that most of the decision of management were unscientific as they were based on the hunch of institution, past experience and rule of thumb. There is no scientific. So due to the lack of proper studies about the division of work among departments, that also led this problem. According to Taylor, scientific management is the art of knowing what you want your men to do and then see that they do it in the most efficient manner. So in simple language, scientific management is an art of knowing what you want from your man to do. Means the employee should know what he expects from the employer. Then see that they do it most efficiently. So, as scientific management approach was developed in the early phases of industrial revolution, it tried to address some of the problems of industrial society. The basic concern of industrial society were to improve the efficiency, reduce the cost of production, and to increase the profit. So this can achieve through two pronged strategies or two strategies. One is improving the technology and technique of work along with efficient management and worker and expansion of market to the new colonies. Taylor was trying to address the first concern of the industrial society, so he emphasized more on scientific knowledge of doing things and scientific way of managing organization. So according to Taylor, management is a true science resting upon clearly defined laws, rules and principles. So the same principle could be applied with equal force to all social activities. So to the management of our home, because he says that management is a true science resting upon clearly defined rules, laws and principles. And these principles could be applied with equal force to all social activities. It may be applied to the management of our home, management of our farm, management of our business, of church, university, government department, etc. So scientific management was concerned with the application of scientific method to managerial practices and production processes in the industrial organization. It basically focused the lower level, that is the subfloor of the organization. So Taylor believed that all workforces could be separated into units and efficiency of each unit could be tested and improved upon using scientific techniques. So these techniques could be extended upward in the organization so that it become rational and efficiency. So according to Taylor's assumption, one best way of doing every job, there is a one best way. Management's role is to lay down this best way that is the standard of the work. So organizational functioning can be improved by adopting scientific method. So a good worker is one who does not initiate action but follows the order of the management. So according to Taylor, that initiative cannot be taken by the worker. It should be taken by the management. So a good worker is one who doesn't initiate action but follows the order of the management. So every worker is an economic man, that is motivated by monetary factor. So these are certain assumptions which was taken by the Taylor. So to overcome the deficiency which I told you in the management, Taylor formulated 4 new principles to be assumed by the management, which are known as the principle of scientific management. So these are what? One by one I'll tell you now 4, then we'll one by one we'll discuss. The first one, the development of true science of work. Second, scientific selection of workmen and their progressive development. Third one, bringing together of science of work and scientifically selected worker. So the first point and second point should come together in the third point. Then the last one, the last principle, equal division of work and responsibility between the management and worker. So we'll discuss one by one. So then first he told that development of true science of work. What do you mean by this? The Taylor believed that there is need to develop a science of work, because he believed that there is one way of doing the best way of doing every job. So this can be achieved by systematic study of work and replacing the old rule of thumb method by developing a scientific method. So develop a science for each element of man's work. That is one best way of doing every job. If it is known as to what constitutes a fair day's work, the worker is saved from unnecessary criticism of the boss and enable the management to get the maximum work from the worker. In simple language, if certain work will be done within some time limit, there is some work, for example, which I am teaching the administrative theory. I have given some 10 or 15 lectures by the IGNO. So it means that IGNO find out that within this syllabus can be completed. That means this task has given to me that you have to complete this. If I know that I have to complete your total syllabus of this within these 10 to 15 days or 15 classes, then I will prepare myself accordingly and I will deliver my lecture accordingly. Then the task which is given by the IGNO, then they will not be criticize me that You have not completed the course. Second, I know that this is my time limit, so I will prepare accordingly. So neither the boss will criticize the worker, nor the management can get his own work. So there the conflict between the management and the worker will come down because both knows their limitation and what they need. So how we can do this? This need a scientific investigation of large daily tasks to be done by a qualified worker under optimum condition. So this can be done by gathering traditional knowledge of worker. So this can be done
Excuse me, sir.
traditional as I told you. So the
Sir,
result of investigation have to be classified.
excuse me, sir. Am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yeah.
Sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt. Sir,
No,
can you
no.
call note so we can note it down?
You want to note down the points or what?
Yes, sir. Can you call it out slowly so we can note it down?
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay, sir.
So the 4 point you have to keep remember the 4 principle. The first one, the development of true science of work. Second, scientific selection and progressive development of workmen. And third point, bringing together of science of work and scientifically selected worker. Bringing together of science of work and scientifically selected worker. Then fourth principle, division of work and responsibility between worker and management. So the first point, which is the development of true science of work, development of a true science of work. So to explain this, what do you mean by true science of work? Taylor, as you know, as I told you, Taylor believed that there is one best way of doing every job. So how we'll find out the best way? This can be done through systematic study of any work. It can to find out the best way, we have to do a systematic study of any work and replacing the old thumb rule method. And this can be done only through developing a scientific method. And how we'll do it? This needs to gather mass of traditional knowledge, and after gathering the traditional knowledge you have to record it, then you have to tabulate it. In many cases, finally reducing it to law of rules, even to mathematical formulation. And later, these laws and rules are to be applied to everyday work of all workmen of the organization. So the scientific method of work saves the worker from unnecessary criticism, as I told you. A boss and management will get maximum work from the worker. So it also results in establishing a large daily tax within the daily work, how much work can be done and what is the best way to be established. Am I clear? So the second point or the second principle of scientific management theory, that is, as I told you, scientific selection and progressive development of workmen. It means that how you will select the worker, because in an organization you need scientific selection of the worker, because you need efficiency in the performance. You need efficiency in the work process. So in that regard, how you will select your worker? So to bring efficiency of the scientific developed work, because in the first point we have developed the first principle, which says that scientifically developed work. So to perform that, need to select the worker on scientific basis. So it is the duty of the management to study the character, the nature and the performance of each worker with a view to finding out his limitation and possibility for his development, because every man has a limitation. So in that regard, we need so for every work we need that how this scientifically selection will be done, because science of work in the first principle Taylor had discussed. In the second point, he told that let us now do scientifically selection, because every individual through its character and nature and the performance we know what is his limitation, and to find after finding his limitation of every worker how we will develop it, that we have to see. So Taylor believed that every worker has a potential for development. So every worker must be systematically, thoroughly trained in that. So first, we have to scientifically selection involves selecting the right person for right job. It means that if somebody is not right person for a job, and if you select him, he will not do that, he cannot perform that job. So it is the duty of the management to train him or to select accordingly the right person for the right job. So there is work for each type of man. There is no type of work, however, suits all type of man, because every man is an expert in some area. So we have to select accordingly the need of the job. So it is also necessary to ensure that the employee accept the new method, tools and conditions willingly and enthusiastically. There should be opportunity for advancement to do the job to the fullest realization of his normal capacity. So in this second point, two things. One, right person for a right job. Second, training them. Train them. Why you should train? If we train them in properly, then we will bring out the limitation or which he has. We have to overcome that limitation in the human. So first principle, scientific work. Second, scientific selection. Third point, bringing both the science of work and scientifically selected the worker. So Taylor says that you may develop all the science that you please and you may scientifically select the trained workers just as much as you please. But unless someone bring this science and workmen together, all your work or which you thought that they will work, all your labor will be lost because the science of work and the worker scientifically selected work have to come together. So to enable the workers to do his job, to ensure that he may not slip back to the earlier method of doing work, there must be somebody to inspire the worker. So Taylor felt it is exclusively responsibility of the management to do this job. Here, the role of the management comes. The role of management is that he has to bring this together. So he believed that workers are always willing to cooperate with the management, but there is more opposition from the side of management. So Taylor believed that workers are always willing to cooperate with the management, but there is more opposition from the side of management. So Taylor maintained that the process of bringing together causes mental revolution. So it is the job of the management. So to bringing together, we need the mental revolution. Later I will discuss what to mean by this. So now the third point is principle is completed. The fourth principle which he has says division of work and responsibility between the management and the worker. Traditionally, the workers bear the entire responsibility of the work and the management has lesser responsibility. Traditionally, it was thought that he will do, the worker will do entire responsibility. But Taylor emphasized that equal responsibility between the management and the worker. So this division results in creating the understanding and mutual dependence between the worker and the management, which will lead to elimination of conflict, strikes, and mistrust between them. So, so Taylor thinks that scientific management can be justly and truthfully characterized as the management in which harmony is the rule rather than discord. So in addition with the above four principles, Taylor also expressed concern of the following scientific management. What are they? Regarding mental revolution. Second, functional foremanship, work study or work measurement, standardized of the tools, selection and training of worker, tax, prescription, incentive schemes, work as an individual activity, trade union. Then the last, that is the development of management thinking. So let's discuss. The first which I told you, mental revolution. Taylor believes that scientific management requires a great revolution, and this revolution will take place in mental attitude of management as well as the worker. So it is if you want to bring scientific management in your organization or industry, anything, you need a mental revolution which will be bringing the mental attitude in both the management as well as the worker. Instead of focusing more on the division of surplus, they should together turn their attention towards increasing the size of the surplus until the surplus becomes so large that it becomes unnecessary quarrel over how it should be divided. So in simple language, if you want to understand, Taylor thinks that we should not fight, the management and workers should not come to a conflict situation, because generally they come that this much surplus or this much profit is there, how much share will be distributed. Rather, according to Taylor, both the worker and management should focus on increasing the size of surplus. If the increase of size of surplus will increase, then what will happen? That the conflict will come down, because if so much surplus will be there, then there will become an unnecessary quarrel over how it should be divided. Once the surplus will increase, there is ample scope for increasing the wage of the worker and increasing the profit for the management. So we should focus on how the size of surplus will increase. So it is along this a complete change in the mental attitude of both sides required. So the conflict which there, that how the workers always demand the wage should increase, management always focus how the profit will increase. According to Taylor, if there will be increase in the surplus, obviously the wage will increase and profit will increase. So there will be, the conflict will become unnecessary. So it demands the realization of the fact that their mutual interest is not antagonistic and mutual prosperity is possible only through mutual cooperation. if the worker and the management will come to realization that they are both interest, the workers interest as well as management interest lies, or their both the prosperity lies only through mutual cooperation. This they have to understand. So Taylor believes that there is no conflict in the interest of employee and workers and consumers. So his major concern was the result of higher productivity should equally benefit the employers, workers and consumers also. So it needs a mental change or mental, it's a revolution in mental attitude. So this is called the mental revolution. Both management and worker has to think that both interests are not antagonistic, rather both interests can be solved only through cooperation. Then comes the second point, that is called the functional foremanship. So what do you mean by functional foremanship? So Taylor is critical on the linear system of organization in which each worker is subordinated to only one boss. He replaced this system with what is called functional foremanship. So he was against that each worker is subordinate to only one boss. In the functional foremanship, the worker receives order from 8 different specialized supervisors. He received the order from 8 specialized supervisors. Am I audible now?
No, sir, your voice is not clear.
Not clear, no? Give me 2 minutes. I just there is some internet issue, so just give me 2 minutes. I think now Now I'm sound is clear. Ipsita?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Now audible.
I think for a long time I was not audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was teaching, but by mistakenly put one. Okay, sorry. Now I'll again start.
Yes,
So the four principle I have told, mental revolution I have told already, Santosh.
sir. Yes, sir.
Functional
What?
foremanship, that was also done.
Yes, sir.
So functional foremanship, time and motion study. I think at that time maybe it was. So time and motion study, he soldier to prepare because the soldiering which he had told that workers should not work according to the capacity because there is problem. How to overcome? So he suggested that there should be motion and time study. So technique to standard of the method. It means to find out the best way. How will do? You have to observe of all the motion comprised in a particular job to do a job. If we'll do that, what will happen? That unnecessary movement we can bring down. So Taylor advocated a systematic study of work. Use of time study can help us find out the optimal way of study carrying out the task. So he considered it as an essential component of scientific management. So the purpose of work study is to eliminate not only unnecessary movement but also eliminate the slow movement and fatigue of the workers. Thereby it is possible to find out the best way of performing the job. Then the standardized work means what will the standard? So Taylor maintained that in addition to determining the best method, the management also should develop the standardized tools in the light of need of specific job. Where I have given you example that tractor and the bullock and plow, if we'll go for the agriculture, tractor will the best because it within less time it will do more work. Then comes your selection and training of worker. According to Taylor, one of the very first requirement of worker who is fit to handle the pig iron as a regular occupation is that he shall be stupid. As I told, the best man for every job. Each man cannot be best for all the job. So there is work for each type of man. There is work for dry horse, work for trotting horse. There is no type of work about suit to all type of men. So every man will be expert or specialized or he has the quality for specific job. So it is the duty of the management to select them and train them accordingly. Then I told you the standardized job have done, standardized work we have done. Then comes to differential piece rate plan. That means we have a standard of work. If somebody is performing less, you will get a low piece rate system. If it is performing at the standard, you will get a large bonus. And if it's working high piece rate above the standard, it means low. If you will not maintain the standard, below standard will get less. If you will maintain the standard, will get bonus. And if you will above the standard, will get a high piece rate. And this plan of payment makes the worker force their best effort. Because Taylor believes that every human being is a economic man. So by virtue of this, by getting bonus and extra piece, right? Then they think about the profit. So they will plan in motivating, and we need a motivating staff also. So he suggested the workers which are unable or unwilling to produce the standard should be removed. Then another point he has highlighted, that work as an individual activity, because Taylor believed that every human being has some personal ambition, where he through this personal ambition he used to be motivated, and if he'll put them in the group, then he will not be interested, he will lose his individual drive. He believes that the influence of the group makes one produce less. That's why he's argued that the female workers were prone to such personal pressure, and indeed separated them in such a way that verbal interaction was impossible. That the verbal which will be discussion, that should be removed. So individual activity should be from individual. So So there will be trade union, he told. Since Taylor was critical of group activity, he was also against the trade union movement. He regarded trade union as unnecessary under his system of work. The employer, according to him, was on same side of worker. The goal of worker and employees is the same, because the mental revolution which he has discussed. Acceptance of scientific management principle would reduce the conflict due to the mental revolution which is told between the worker and management. So they are not opposed to each other, rather they are in the same pace. So since management itself laid down what was the fair day's pay for fair day work through objective rationale, means the need for the trade union does not arise. So he says that there should not be the trade union. Why? Because trade union, it is, they don't need, because both are in the same pace. Then he told the division of work. Taylor felt that not only there should be division of labor on a shop floor, means the worker, but also in the division of work between the worker and management, which I have discussed. So these are certain principles which I have discussed. And if you see this, the Louis Brandeis first used the word scientific management in the 1910. In the earlier days, Taylor usually refers the technique as the tax system or tax management. Later, Taylor welcomes more appealing nomenclature in that regard. It has developed later stage. And if we'll see the criticism about the scientific management theory, as every theory has a criticism. So same way, this theory has also the criticism. It has been called as a pro-capitalist theory because it has emerged at a time when capitalist development had reached the stage of requiring organizational change in the functioning of industry. Because it is that time, so it has been called pro-capitalist theory. It is called mechanistic theory because it has neglected the human aspect. Because it underestimated and oversimplified the human emotions. Humans can be motivated only economic factor and not by social and psychological factor. Because Taylor thinks that every human being can be motivated by only economic factor. I will take 5 minutes break, then I will talk. Santosh, I'm audible? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all this is the related to the which I have discussed today regarding the scientific management theory, and this is an important portion of your also. So I think for today we'll close the class here. Tomorrow we'll meet and discuss about the other theories also. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.